The sterile white light of Lenox Hill Hospital flickered against the glass walls as Claire Bennett clutched her swollen belly, waiting for her prenatal checkup. At 7 months pregnant, she had learned to breathe through her loneliness. Her husband, Evan Collins, hadn't shown up for a single appointment since week 20. The nurses pitied her, but said nothing. Manhattan mornings were always cold, but that day felt colder. She was scrolling through her iPhone, staring at the ultrasound photos saved as her wallpaper, when the automatic doors slid open, and in walked Sabrina Cole. Every head in the waiting room turned. Sabrina's diamond heels clicked against the tile, her designer bag dangling from one wrist, her red lipstick curved into a smirk that didn't belong in a hospital. "Claire," she whispered, her tone dripping with venom. "Still pretending you're the wife?" Claire froze. She hadn't seen Sabrina in person since that humiliating night when a gossip blog leaked pictures of her husband dining with the mysterious brunette at the Ritz-Carlton. Claire had chosen silence then. But now, inside the same hospital, where she hoped to protect her child, that silence was about to break. Sabrina leaned closer, perfume sharp like alcohol. "He's done with you," she hissed. "You're just a placeholder until the divorce clears." "Leave," Claire said softly, voice trembling. "This isn't the place." But Sabrina only laughed. She stepped closer until the edge of her bag brushed against Claire's belly. In a split second, she shoved Claire's shoulder, hard enough to send her stumbling backward into a metal chair. The sound echoed down the hall. The nurse screamed. Claire gasped, clutching her abdomen, as a sharp pain rippled through her body. Alarms started blaring. The world tilted. "Security, room 4, someone shouted. Sabrina's expression shifted from rage to panic. Her phone slipped from her hand, skidding across the floor. The screen cracked, a spiderweb of glass and light. The security guard burst in, but Sabrina bolted for the exit, heels clattering against the linoleum. In her rush, a small object fell from her wrist, a delicate Tiffany bracelet engraved with the initials SC. It rolled beneath a chair, glinting under the fluorescent light. Claire's breathing grew shallow. Nurses lifted her onto a gurney, her gown soaked with fear and sweat. She whispered, "My baby," before her eyes fluttered shut. Outside, rain began to streak the glass windows of the maternity wing. At that same moment, across town on Fifth Avenue, Evan Collins was sitting in a high-rise boardroom, laughing with investors. His Mont Blanc pen tapped rhythmically on the table as his phone buzzed, once, twice. The caller ID read, "Lenox Hill Emergency." He ignored it. 2 minutes later, an older man standing by the window, William Bennett, Evan's estranged father-in-law, noticed the missed call notification flashing on his own iPad. The name made his pulse spike. He turned slowly, his eyes cold as Manhattan rain. "Get my car. We're going to the hospital." 2 days earlier, Claire Bennett had still believed her life could be repaired. She had tried to convince herself that Evan was only distracted, too busy managing investor meetings and chasing funding for his new tech firm on Fifth Avenue. But deep down, she knew the truth. Love had left their penthouse long before she discovered the lipstick stain on his white shirt. They had met 5 years ago at a charity gala at the Plaza Hotel. Evan was charming, ambitious, the kind of man who ordered champagne by the case and spoke in promises. Claire, the daughter of billionaire investor William Bennett, had fallen for his hunger, his drive to build something of his own without living off her father's empire. William had warned her, "A man who hides his ambition behind flattery will one day trade you for applause." But she was young, in love, and certain she could fix what she didn't understand. Their wedding was a Manhattan fairy tale. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, and a honeymoon in the Hamptons. For the first 2 years, things seemed perfect. Evan built his company, Bennett Tech Labs, with Claire's quiet support and William's reluctant investment. But success changed him. Late nights became business trips. Calls went unanswered. Then came the Instagram stories. The same woman's reflection appearing in every glass of wine, every hotel mirror, every rooftop bar across the city. Sabrina Cole. She had been Evan's PR manager, a beautiful manipulator with a perfect smile and a ruthless instinct for attention. Sabrina didn't hide. She posted subtle captions, "Winning feels better in silk," and let gossip bloggers connect the dots. Claire endured it all in silence, choosing to protect her unborn child from scandal. When she first confronted Evan, his reaction had been cold. "You're imagining things, Claire," he'd said, sliding his Rolex off his wrist and setting it beside his laptop. "You're hormonal. You need rest." That night, she couldn't sleep. The sound of New York traffic seeped through their Park Avenue penthouse windows. She sat by the crib she'd built alone, tracing her fingers over a tiny blue blanket. The city outside glittered with 1,000 windows, each hiding a different heartbreak. At dawn, her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Evan and Sabrina at the Ritz-Carlton rooftop, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "The power couple the city deserves." Claire didn't cry. She packed a small overnight bag and moved into the guest apartment her father had quietly kept for her above Bennett Capital's office. She told no one, but William knew. He'd seen the headlines. He wanted to intervene, but pride and guilt kept him silent. Years ago, he had pushed Claire away when she chose Evan over family business loyalty. Now, seeing her heart shatter through the glass of his own success, he wondered whether all his wealth had built anything that truly mattered. Meanwhile, Evan's world grew louder, brighter, more reckless. Sabrina pushed him to distance himself from Claire, saying divorce would elevate his image. She whispered promises of partnerships, magazine covers, power couples. He believed her. Until the night Sabrina went too far. After the hospital attack, security footage would later show Sabrina lingering by the vending machine, her face calm before the storm. But 2 days before that moment, Evan had promised Claire he'd attend her next checkup. He hadn't shown up. She had still set the appointment, still hoped he'd walk through that hospital door and prove her wrong. Instead, he'd been at the River Cafe, laughing with Sabrina and 2 venture capitalists, while Claire waited alone under sterile hospital lights. Now, as she lay unconscious in the emergency ward, William stood outside her room, staring through the glass, remembering the warning he'd once given Evan. Men who think love is leverage forget that real power doesn't buy forgiveness. He turned to his driver. "Find out everything about the woman who attacked my daughter." And that was the moment William Bennett decided Manhattan would burn before he let them get away with this. The sharp scent of disinfectant hung in the air when Claire opened her eyes. Machines beeped softly beside her bed, each sound reminding her she was still alive. And so was the baby. A nurse with gentle eyes leaned over. "You're safe now, Mrs. Collins. The baby's heart rate is steady, but you need to rest." Claire's fingers trembled as she reached for her stomach. She felt the faintest kick beneath her palm and exhaled a shaky breath of relief. Then the memories hit like glass shards, the shove, Sabrina's perfume, the cold tile floor. Her throat tightened. "Was anyone here?" she whispered. The nurse hesitated. "Your father arrived earlier. He's speaking with the police now. Your husband hasn't come yet." That last sentence cut deeper than the fall. Claire turned her face toward the window. Outside, Manhattan glittered beneath gray morning clouds. Limousines slid past like silent sharks. For the first time, the city felt foreign to her, fast, loud, and merciless. Minutes later, the door opened. William Bennett stepped in, every inch the image of quiet power. Dark wool coat, silver hair, calm eyes that carried decades of command. He looked at his daughter and froze. The tubes, the monitors, the bruises on her wrist, everything pierced through his chest. "Claire," he said softly, taking her hand. "You don't have to say anything. I've already seen the footage." She blinked. "Footage?" He nodded to the man standing behind him. Noah Reed, Bennett Capital's chief operating officer and longtime family friend. Tall, sharp-suited, and precise, Noah looked like someone who lived on black coffee and control. He opened his leather folder and placed a still photo on the table. It showed Sabrina lunging forward, her face twisted in fury, hand gripping Claire's arm. "The hospital's security camera caught everything," Noah said. "She ran before security reached her, but she dropped this." He placed a small evidence bag on the table, a Tiffany bracelet, silver and unmistakably hers. "We've already turned a copy to the police." Claire stared at it, speechless. William's jaw tightened. The world needs to see what kind of people they really are. "No," Claire said, shaking her head weakly. "I don't want more headlines. Not again." William sighed, lowering his voice. "This isn't about scandal anymore. It's about justice and protecting that child." Her eyes filled with tears. "Dad, I don't want to fight them. I just want to be left alone." But even as she said it, She knew there would be no peace until the truth came out. Across town, Evan finally noticed the missed calls. When he arrived at Lenox Hill, his designer shoes squeaked against the polished floor. The security guard stopped him at the door of Claire's room. William's cold stare met him halfway. "You're late," William said flatly. Evan swallowed hard. "I was in a meeting. I came as soon as I heard." "You heard 2 hours ago," William interrupted, "and your mistress attacked my daughter." Evan's face drained of color. "Sabrina? That's impossible." William opened his iPad, showing a paused frame from the hallway footage. Sabrina's hand was clearly on Claire's shoulder. Evan's voice cracked. "She said Claire fell." "Stop lying," William snapped, the composure cracking for the first time. "Your lies almost killed my grandchild." The silence that followed was suffocating. Claire turned her head toward the window again, her voice faint but steady. "I don't need your excuses, Evan. Go back to your meetings." Evan looked at her, then at William, and quietly left. Noah stepped closer to William. "What's our move?" William's eyes darkened, reflecting the Manhattan skyline beyond the glass. "We expose them both," he said, "and we start tonight." That evening, the Manhattan skyline glowed like fire through the tinted windows of William Bennett's private Mercedes S-Class. The city that had once worshipped him for his empire of finance now seemed like a chessboard. Every glimmering light a potential move, every shadow a secret. He sat in silence, the hum of the engine barely louder than his own heartbeat. In the back seat, Noah Reed scrolled through his iPad Pro, replaying the footage from Lenox Hill Hospital frame by frame. "We've got clear visual confirmation," he said. "Sabrina Cole, 26, PR consultant for Collins Media Group. The attack is deliberate, no question." William didn't respond immediately. He stared out at Park Avenue, where rain streaked against the glass. His reflection looked older than he remembered. "And the press?" "Already sniffing around," Noah replied. "2 gossip outlets are framing it as a catfight between women. They're trying to make Claire look unstable. Probably leaked by Sabrina's team." William's hands tightened around the handle of his Montblanc pen. Not this time. He had seen the headlines before. Every lie, every manipulation. The last time he'd trusted the media to tell the truth, it had destroyed someone he loved. He wouldn't let that happen to Claire. Not again. The car stopped outside Bennett Capitol Tower on 5th Avenue. William stepped out, the rain glistening against his coat. Inside, the 42nd floor conference room was already lit. His crisis team waited. Lawyers, PR strategists, cybersecurity analysts. He didn't raise his voice, but every word landed like a verdict. "We go on record. We control the narrative. I want the footage secured, encrypted, and time-stamped. I want legal filings drafted by morning. Sabrina Cole and anyone who helped cover this up, investigate them all." Noah nodded. "Understood. And Evan?" William's expression hardened. "He'll get his day too." Back at Lenox Hill, Claire sat upright, sipping lukewarm hospital tea. She could hear faint murmurs from the hallway, nurses, security officers, and reporters pressing for details. She didn't know what her father was planning, but the fear in her chest was beginning to shift into something else. A quiet, unfamiliar strength. She scrolled through her phone, reading the hateful comments under a tabloid post. "Gold digger wife fakes injury to trap husband." Her hands shook. How quickly strangers turned cruelty into entertainment. Then a message popped up from an unknown number. It was a photo. Sabrina standing outside a parking garage, smirking into the camera. Below it, a single line. "You're not safe anywhere." Claire's breath hitched. She pressed the call button. A nurse rushed in, and moments later William and Noah returned. "Dad," she whispered, showing the photo. William's jaw clenched. "She's taunting you." He turned to Noah. "Get private security for my daughter. 2 guards, 24/7. Noah nodded. "Already done." William sat beside Claire's bed, his voice softer now. "You know, your mother once told me power means nothing if you can't protect your family." "I failed you once, Claire. I won't do it again." Her eyes glistened. "You didn't fail me, Dad. You just stepped back when I needed you to step in." He looked down, ashamed yet determined. "Then let me fix that." Across the city, in a dim penthouse filled with designer chaos, Sabrina Cole was pacing. Her cracked iPhone lay on the counter. A man in a dark hoodie handed her a memory stick. "Here's the footage," he said. "Delete it, and it's like nothing happened." Sabrina smirked. "No, we're going to rewrite the story first." As the city lights flickered across her face, her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown sender. They already have the video. Her smile vanished, and for the first time, Sabrina Cole realized she was no longer the hunter. She was the prey. By the next morning, the sun barely touched the tall glass of Bennett Capitol Tower when Evan Collins arrived, wearing the same gray suit he'd worn the day before. His eyes were bloodshot from a night spent rehearsing excuses. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt endless, each passing floor a countdown to judgment. When the doors slid open, William Bennett was already waiting. He stood near the window overlooking Fifth Avenue, a cup of untouched black coffee beside him, hands resting on the polished mahogany table. Noah Reed stood at the far end, flipping through a printed report. "Evan," William said without turning around. His voice was calm, but the stillness in the room was terrifying. Evan forced a smile. "Mr. Bennett, I came as soon as I—" "Save it." William turned, eyes cold as marble. "You've had enough chances to come. My daughter's wrist is bruised. She nearly lost your child, and all you did was ignore calls and let your mistress spin the narrative." Evan swallowed, stepping closer. "I didn't know she would do that. Sabrina said it was just a misunderstanding." William snapped, slamming his hand on the table. The Mont Blanc pen rolled across the wood, stopping right in front of Evan. "You call a physical attack on a pregnant woman a misunderstanding?" Evan's face drained of color. He took a shaky breath. "I love Claire, I swear. I never meant for things to go that far." William leaned forward. "You don't love her. You loved her last name. You loved what it bought you, the apartment, the investors, the spotlight. And when you thought you didn't need her anymore, you threw her to the wolves." The silence was heavy enough to choke on. Noah placed a folder on the table. "Mr. Bennett, we pulled the records you asked for." He opened it and revealed printed bank transfers. Evan's account, wiring money to Sabrina Cole's consulting firm. Evan's lips parted. "That's business. She handled PR for the company." Noah slid another page across the table. "Then explain this. 3 days before the attack, you transferred $20,000 with the note, 'Handle it quietly.' Care to elaborate?" Evan's voice broke. "I was trying to make the gossip go away. I didn't think." "No," William interrupted. "You never think. You react. You run. That's who you are." Evan stepped back, desperate. "Please, William, I'll fix this. I'll talk to Sabrina. I'll get her to—" "You'll do nothing," William said, his voice low and final. "From now on, this isn't your story to fix. It's mine." Outside, the wind howled against the glass. The city moved on, unaware that a man's empire and his marriage was collapsing inside that corner office. Evan tried one last plea. "You can't destroy me, William. I built that company from nothing." William turned away, staring out at the skyline. "No, Evan, I built it. You just rented the view." Noah's phone buzzed. He checked the message and looked up. "The hospital just confirmed. Police are officially opening the assault case. Sabrina's name is on the warrant list." Evan froze. "What?" "They have her bracelet," Noah continued, voice steady, "and the security footage is being secured as evidence. It's over." William picked up his pen, signing a single document before sliding it toward Noah. "File the partnership termination for Collins Media Group, effective immediately." Evan's voice cracked. "You're ending everything?" William finally turned back, eyes like steel. "No, Evan, you did that yourself." Evan's chest tightened. He stumbled back, realizing what true power looked like. Not loud, not chaotic, but deliberate and cold. He reached for his phone, hands shaking. Sabrina's number flashed across the screen. He hesitated, then whispered, "What did you do, Sabrina?" But when he called, the line was dead, and Sabrina was already gone. Sabrina Cole wasn't the type to hide. That morning she sat cross-legged in her luxurious downtown loft, sipping iced coffee as her cracked iPhone buzzed nonstop. News outlets had begun circling her name, but she had a plan. She always did. On her marble countertop lay a silver MacBook Pro, open to a dozen browser tabs, gossip blogs, social media feeds, and encrypted chats with fake accounts she controlled. With a few keystrokes, Sabrina unleashed a digital storm. Dozens of anonymous posts flooded Twitter and Instagram. Jealous wife fakes hospital drama to frame her husband's assistant. Claire Bennett, rich girl gone crazy. Screenshots of fabricated messages appeared online, painting Claire as an unstable woman desperate for attention. Sabrina leaned back, smiling coldly. "If I can't silence her, I'll bury her." Meanwhile, in Bennett Capital's glass-walled crisis room, Noah Reed was watching it happen in real time. "She's fast," he muttered, scrolling through trending hashtags on his tablet. "This is organized. She's got a team, or at least a network of fake accounts." William Bennett stood beside him, his reflection shimmering against the window overlooking Fifth Avenue. "Then we cut off her oxygen. Trace the money." Noah nodded. "Already on it." Within hours, Bennett's cyber team dug through layers of shell companies and payment processors. The trail led to a marketing firm in Miami, registered under Sabrina's name just 3 months prior. The financial logs showed recent wire transfers from an account labeled CMG Holdings. William's jaw tightened. "That's Evan's company." Back at the hospital, Claire sat up in bed, scrolling through her phone. The hate was unbearable. Strangers called her a liar, a manipulator. One comment read, "If she was really attacked, where's the proof?" She almost threw the phone away when Noah entered quietly, holding a folder. "Don't read that trash," he said, setting the folder on her bedside table. "We're getting ahead of it." Claire gave a weak smile. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," Noah admitted, "but it's possible." He opened the folder and showed her screenshots of Sabrina's transactions and message logs. "She's not just reckless, she's calculating. She's been paying influencers to push fake stories." Claire looked at the evidence, her heart aching. "And Evan?" Noah hesitated. "He funded the PR retainer. Maybe he didn't know what she'd do with it, but he's complicit now." Claire closed her eyes, fighting the sting of tears. He always said the truth doesn't matter, just perception. Maybe he finally got what he wanted. Noah's expression softened. "Perception fades, proof doesn't." At Bennett Capital, William watched as his legal team prepared statements and subpoenas. Every movement was precise, mechanical, lethal. This wasn't just revenge, it was restoration. "Send the first filing to the NYPD," William ordered, "and notify Sabrina's firm we're freezing her assets pending investigation." One of his aides nodded nervously. "And Mr. Collins?" William's gaze hardened. "He's next." Across the city, Evan sat alone in his office, scrolling through the chaos online. His reflection in the glass looked nothing like the man he used to be. The phone buzzed again. Sabrina calling. He answered, voice tense. "You need to stop posting. The police are getting involved." Sabrina laughed softly. "Too late for that, darling. If I go down, I'm taking you with me. You wired the money, remember?" Evan's stomach dropped. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I would." Then came silence. Sabrina hung up, her smirk returning as she opened a new email draft, addressed to every tabloid editor in New York. Subject line, "The Billionaire Family's Dirty Secret." Her fingers hovered over the send button. And as she clicked send, she didn't realize the IP tracker on William Bennett's system had just locked onto her location. 3 nights later, Manhattan shimmered under a velvet sky. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was alive with crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, and the flash of cameras. The Bennett Foundation's annual charity gala was the city's most anticipated event, one William Bennett hadn't attended in years. But this year, he made sure everyone knew he would. Claire hesitated at the entrance, her hand resting on her baby bump. She looked breathtaking in a simple navy gown that draped over her shoulders, elegant, not ostentatious. Noah Reed stood beside her in a black tuxedo, protective but respectful, ensuring no one came too close. "This feels wrong," Claire murmured. "After everything." Noah gave a reassuring nod. "It's not about appearances tonight. It's about reclaiming your name. You belong here, not hiding in hospital rooms." Inside, the orchestra played softly, the scent of white roses filling the air. The room glittered with Manhattan's elite. Investors, CEOs, and journalists eager for gossip. William Bennett stood near the stage, shaking hands with the senator, his silver cufflinks glinting under the lights. But his eyes never strayed far from Claire. Then, like a poison drop in champagne, Sabrina Cole appeared. She entered the ballroom wearing a shimmering gold dress, every strand of her brunette hair perfectly curled. Flanked by a PR agent and a photographer, she smiled as if she hadn't attacked a pregnant woman days ago. Her presence drew immediate attention. Reporters turned, cameras flashed, whispers rippled through the crowd. "Isn't that the Mistress?" one socialite whispered. "She's got nerve showing up here," another replied. William noticed her before Claire did. His eyes narrowed. "So she took the bait," he muttered. The gala hadn't just been a charity event, it was a carefully planned trap. William and Noah had orchestrated it down to the seating chart. Every major outlet, every influential investor, and every security feed in the plaza had been coordinated. Tonight wasn't about revenge, it was about exposure. As Sabrina floated toward the press area, she spotted Claire across the room. Their eyes met. Sabrina's smirk widened. She motioned for her photographer to follow, pretending confidence. "Let's give them a show," she whispered. But before she could pose, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Miss Cole," William said, stepping forward with calm authority. The microphone in his hand amplified his voice. "I believe you have something to say to my daughter." The room froze. Sabrina blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" William gestured toward the projection screen behind the stage. A hush fell over the guests as the lights dimmed. The screen flickered. Security footage from Lenox Hill Hospital began to play. Sabrina's face appeared in full clarity, her hand pushing Claire. The fall, the chaos. Gasps erupted. A woman near the bar covered her mouth. The journalist surged forward, flashes exploding like fireworks. Sabrina stepped back, her voice trembling. "That's fake! It's edited!" Noah stepped beside William, holding up a signed authentication document from the hospital and NYPD. The footage has been verified by 3 independent sources. Claire's heart pounded as she watched from the side. For the first time, she saw her pain reflected, not as scandal, but as truth. Sabrina's mask cracked. "You can't do this to me," she screamed, voice breaking under the weight of cameras and judgment. William's gaze was unflinching. "You did it to yourself." Security approached as the crowd parted. Sabrina's PR agent quietly slipped away, leaving her alone under the blinding lights. Across the ballroom, Evan appeared at last, his face pale, sweat glistening at his temples. His voice wavered. "William, let's not do this here." William turned sharply. "You should have thought of that before she almost killed your wife and child." The orchestra had gone silent. The city's elite watched as the perfect illusion of wealth and deceit shattered before their eyes. And as Sabrina was escorted out of the plaza in tears, every camera in New York captured the fall of a woman who thought she could destroy a Bennett. By sunrise the next morning, New York's tabloids had gone feral. "The Mistress meltdown at the plaza," screamed one headline. Another showed a blurred still from the gala video. Sabrina's face twisted in fury, William Bennett's icy expression behind her. The footage had gone viral overnight. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and a flood of sympathy for Claire Bennett. In the penthouse suite of Bennett Capitol Tower, William watched the chaos unfold on the large television screen. He didn't look pleased, just determined. Across the room, Noah Reed was already typing up legal documents. "We filed for an immediate protective order," he said. "The DA's office will move forward with the assault charge. Sabrina's attorney tried to negotiate, but it's too late for that." William nodded, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "What about Evan?" Noah hesitated. "He's in trouble too. The money trail connecting him to Sabrina is being reviewed. If the prosecutor sees it as aiding and abetting, he could face conspiracy charges." William looked toward the skyline. Let him face the consequences. He earned them. Meanwhile, at her hospital suite, Claire sat propped against a mountain of pillows. The morning light spilled across her face, softer now. The chaos outside her window felt distant, like it belonged to another life. She was exhausted but oddly calm, like someone who'd finally survived the storm. Her phone buzzed with notifications, support messages, news articles, strangers thanking her for standing up for every woman silenced by power. She smiled faintly. The world was finally seeing the truth. But victory didn't feel like celebration, it felt like relief. Then came the knock on her door. Evan Collins stepped inside, pale, disheveled, his tie gone, his once perfect composure fractured. He looked smaller now, like the weight of his empire had crushed him. "Claire," he whispered. I saw the news. I can't believe she—" "Don't," Claire interrupted softly. "Don't pretend you didn't know who she was. You chose her." Evan's voice cracked. "I made mistakes, but I never wanted to hurt you." Claire looked up, her gaze steady for the first time in months. "You didn't just hurt me. You endangered our child. You left me alone in that hospital while your mistress tried to kill me. And now you want forgiveness?" He had no answer. He sank into the chair beside her bed, his hands trembling. "I lost everything, Claire. Investors are pulling out. My company's collapsing. She cut him off again. Maybe losing everything is the only way you'll understand what love actually costs. Evan stared at her, speechless. He looked around the sterile room, at the monitors and machines, at the quiet strength in her face, and for the first time, he realized she wasn't his anymore. Back at Bennett Capital, Noah received an alert on his phone. "William," he said, "you need to see this." On the screen was a live stream, Sabrina Cole, broadcasting from her penthouse, makeup smudged, voice trembling. "I was set up," she cried. "That footage was manipulated. William Bennett is using his billions to destroy me." William watched silently. Then he leaned forward and said, "Download that clip, we'll add it to the record." "Why?" Noah asked. "Because," William replied, "every lie she tells now becomes proof of her guilt later." Noah smirked. Calculated, ruthless. William's eyes softened slightly. Necessary. Later that evening, Claire received a call from Noah. "The restraining order is approved. Sabrina can't come within 500 feet of you. You're safe now." Claire let out a long breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Thank you, Noah, for everything." He paused. "You don't owe anyone gratitude, Claire. You just need to heal." But as she hung up, Claire felt a flicker of something stronger than fear, resolve. Because this time, she wasn't just surviving, she was preparing to rise. Rain streaked across the Manhattan skyline, turning the glass towers into mirrors of regret. Evan Collins sat alone in his office, empty coffee cups, half-packed boxes, and a silence that pressed against his chest like guilt. His reflection stared back at him from the window, the man who once had everything and now had nothing. His phone buzzed. An email from his lawyer blinked on the screen. "Preliminary findings indicate a potential criminal conspiracy. Call me immediately." He didn't. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and poured another shot of whiskey. The city lights blurred outside. Everything he'd built, his reputation, his company, his marriage, was slipping through his fingers. A second later, the door burst open. Noah Reed walked in, soaked from the rain, holding a black folder. "We need to talk," he said. Evan tensed. "If this is about the lawsuit..." "It's about your emails," Noah interrupted, voice sharp. "We subpoenaed your company servers this morning. You should have known better than to use corporate accounts to cover your tracks." Evan's stomach turned. "What are you talking about?" Noah dropped the folder on the desk. Inside were printed emails, dozens of them. The dates stretched back months. Messages between Evan and Sabrina, planning to manipulate press coverage, silence bloggers, and even threaten a hospital staffer who witnessed the attack. Evan's eyes darted across the lines, heart pounding. This was her idea? She said it was damage control." Noah folded his arms, then explained this one. He pulled out a highlighted email, Evan's name on top, subject line, "Handle it before Claire finds out." Evan froze. "That wasn't what it looks like." Noah leaned closer. "Then tell me what it looks like to a jury." The words hit like a slap. Evan's breath came shallow. "You're bluffing. William would never go that far." Noah gave a thin smile. "You still don't get it, do you? He's not bluffing. He's protecting his daughter and his grandchild. There's nothing he wouldn't do." Outside the window, thunder rolled. Evan's phone buzzed again, this time a message from Sabrina. "They're closing in. Don't let them get the hard drive." He read it twice, panic rising. "What hard drive?" he muttered. Noah caught the flicker in his expression. "What's she hiding?" Evan stood abruptly, pacing. "It's nothing. Just personal files." Noah's voice was calm but cold. "Then you won't mind if we find it." As Noah left, Evan collapsed back into his chair, head in his hands. His pulse raced. That hard drive. Sabrina had convinced him to store backup data there. Emails, payments, recordings, proof of everything. Across town, in a safe house arranged by William's security team, Sabrina Cole sat on her couch surrounded by chaos. Her hands trembled as she plugged a silver external drive into her laptop. Lines of encrypted data filled the screen. She smirked, whispering, "Insurance." But before she could upload it, her phone buzzed. "Police search warrant issued. Stay put." Her eyes widened. She unplugged the drive, grabbed her purse, and ran toward the door, just as headlights flooded through the rain. Black SUVs pulled up outside. At Bennett Capital, William stood beside Noah, watching a live feed from the operation. "Get the hard drive intact," William ordered. "It's the last piece." Noah nodded, already in motion. Back in his office, Evan watched helplessly as his phone lit up with breaking news. Police raid PR consultant's apartment in connection to hospital attack. His name was mentioned in the report. He sank deeper into his chair. The walls felt smaller, the air heavier. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Meanwhile, Claire, safe in her hospital bed, received a text from Noah. "We've got the proof." She looked at her reflection in the window, her hand resting on her stomach. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe the nightmare might finally end. But she didn't know. The hard drive didn't just hold evidence of the attack. It held something darker, something that could destroy more than one family. Manhattan was quiet that night, blanketed in a thin mist that blurred the neon reflections on Park Avenue. From the window of her hospital suite, Claire Bennett watched the city lights tremble like stars caught in water. The storm outside had eased, but inside her chest, a different one was still raging. She had just received a call from Noah Reed. The police had seized Sabrina Cole's hard drive, an encrypted archive of emails, videos, and financial records. It was now in state custody, but William Bennett's legal team had been given a duplicate copy. "There's something you should see," Noah had said. His voice was steady but heavy. Minutes later, William arrived. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his gray hair damp from the drizzle. He set a silver USB drive on the bedside table. "You deserve to know what was really happening behind your back." Claire hesitated. "Dad, I don't need more pain." "This isn't pain," William said. "It's clarity." Noah joined them, connecting the drive to his MacBook Pro. A folder appeared on the screen. Private videos. William's jaw tightened as the first clip loaded. Grainy security footage from Evan's office, time-stamped 3 months before the attack. Evan sat across from Sabrina, his voice cold, deliberate. "She's getting suspicious," he said. "We can't let her talk to the press. If she does, everything collapses." Sabrina leaned closer. "So what do you want me to do?" "Handle it. Make her seem unstable if you have to." Claire's breath caught. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. The video ended. The silence afterward was unbearable. William turned to Noah. "How many files like this?" "Dozens," Noah replied quietly. "Emails, phone calls, even payments labeled as damage control. Evan didn't just cover for her. He orchestrated it." Claire stared at the screen, numb. "He planned to destroy me." William's voice trembled with fury. "He used you to build his career, and when he didn't need you, he tried to erase you. But he forgot. Power doesn't belong to those who lie. It belongs to those who survive." Claire closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. For the first time, she wasn't crying out of fear. It was release, pure, unfiltered truth washing over years of deception. William stood. "I'll take care of the rest. You just focus on your baby." But Claire shook her head. "No. This time, I'll face him myself." Across the city, Evan Collins sat in his dimly lit apartment. His phone rang, and he recognized the number instantly. "Claire." He answered hesitantly. "Claire, She cut him off. "I saw the footage." The silence stretched thin between them. Evan's breath stuttered. "It's not what it looks like." Her voice was steady. "You said those words to me 100 times, and every time they meant less." "Claire, please." "No, Evan," she said softly. "You broke something that can't be fixed. You didn't just cheat. You tried to destroy the person who loved you the most, and now you'll live with the truth you created." He didn't respond. She could hear his shallow breathing through the line. "You don't get to call me anymore," she whispered, ending the call. That night, William filed a formal civil suit against both Evan Collins and Sabrina Cole for emotional distress, defamation, and malicious intent. The documents were served before dawn. When the news broke, the financial world erupted. Investors pulled out of Collins Media Group, stocks plummeted, and journalists flooded Fifth Avenue for statements. At sunrise, William stood by Claire's bedside again, a faint smile softening his stern face. "It's over now," he said quietly. She looked up at him, weary but peaceful. "No, Dad, it's just beginning." Outside, the first rays of morning broke through the clouds, spilling light over the hospital's glass facade. And as Claire rested her hand on her unborn child, she vowed that the next chapter of her life would not be written by pain, but by power. The morning after the lawsuit hit, Manhattan was buzzing like an open wire. Every news anchor, talk show host, and podcast was dissecting the Bennett scandal. From luxury to betrayal, one headline read. Another declared, "Pregnant wife fights back, billionaire father declares war." Inside Bennett Capitol Tower, the 42nd floor conference room became the war room. Screens displayed live media feeds, tweets, and online polls. William Bennett stood at the head of the long oak table, coffee untouched, sleeves rolled up. His expression was calm, but beneath it pulsed a quiet, calculated fire. "Damage control is no longer our strategy," he said. "Truth is." Noah Reed, sitting across from him with his MacBook open, nodded. "We've prepared a controlled media response, an exclusive interview with the New York Times, and a verified press release outlining every fact, every document, every court filing. It's airtight." William's eyes shifted to the PR director, a sharp woman in a navy blazer. "How's public sentiment?" She scrolled through data on her iPad. Claire's approval rating is sky high. 85% of viewers believe she was targeted unfairly. Sabrina's credibility is destroyed. As for Evan Collins, he's officially toxic in the business world. No one wants his name on their boards. A flicker of satisfaction crossed William's face. Good, but we're not done until the truth outshines the noise. That same morning, Claire sat in her hospital room watching a morning show on TV. The host was replaying the footage from the Plaza Gala, then showing clips from the official statement Bennett Capital had just released. It was firm, dignified, and backed by evidence. "Claire Bennett has chosen not to make public comments at this time," the anchor read, "but through her legal counsel, she emphasizes that justice, not revenge, is her goal." Claire's lips trembled. The words didn't feel like vengeance. They felt like closure. The nurse entered with breakfast. "You're famous now," she said kindly, setting down the tray. "I don't want fame," Claire murmured, staring out at Central Park through the window. "I just want peace." Across town, in a dingy apartment, Sabrina Cole watched the same broadcast. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her golden hair tangled. She threw her remote at the TV, shattering the screen. "They're painting me as a monster," she shouted to no one. "I can fix this. I can still fix this." But her phone buzzed, her attorney calling. "Don't do anything reckless," the voice warned. "Every move you make now will be used against you." Sabrina ignored him. She opened her laptop and began typing a new post on her social media, trying to spin the narrative again. "Sometimes the truth gets twisted," she wrote. "What if the perfect wife isn't so perfect?" Within minutes, William's media monitoring team caught it. Noah sighed. "She's not giving up quietly." William leaned forward. "Then she leaves us no choice. Release the audio." Noah hesitated. "You mean?" "Yes," William said firmly. "The one where she admits everything." An hour later, the internet exploded. A leaked voice memo surfaced. Sabrina's unmistakable voice. "Of course I pushed her. She deserved it. She took everything from me." The audio spread like wildfire across platforms. Comment sections turned vicious, calling her unhinged, cruel, and dangerous. Sabrina's sponsors dropped her within hours. At sunset, Claire watched the coverage unfold on her iPad. For the first time in months, she didn't feel small or invisible. The world finally saw what she'd endured. She whispered softly, "Thank you, Dad." Back in the tower, William turned off the screens. "Phase 1 is complete," he said to Noah. "Tomorrow, we focus on the court." Noah looked up. "And Sabrina?" William's tone was final. "She'll face the law like everyone else." Outside, the Manhattan skyline glowed in amber light, the storm clouds fading into twilight. But deep down, William knew, truth was only half the battle. The real war was still to come. The morning of the hearing broke cold and gray, the kind of Manhattan morning that smelled like wet concrete and tension. Outside the New York County Supreme Court, a storm of reporters crowded behind barricades, cameras flashing as black cars pulled up one by one. Headlines screamed from digital billboards, "Sabrina Cole faces assault charges." "Billionaire family showdown in court." Inside a sleek black Mercedes S-Class, Claire Bennett sat quietly in the back seat, her hands clasped over her belly. She was 7 months along now, her maternity dress simple but elegant, a soft ivory fabric that seemed to glow in the pale light. William sat beside her, stern and silent. Noah Reed rode in front, reviewing notes on his iPad Pro. "Remember," William said softly, turning to his daughter, "you don't owe anyone a show, just the truth." Claire nodded, her pulse steady but her eyes full of quiet fire. "After everything they took from me, I think the truth is enough." When they entered the courthouse, the air was thick with whispers. Journalists craned their necks to catch a glimpse of her. On the other side of the aisle sat Sabrina Cole, her once perfect face pale, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. Gone was the designer confidence. She looked like a woman cornered. Evan Collins sat behind her, shoulders hunched, avoiding everyone's gaze. He hadn't been charged yet, but he knew the walls were closing in. Judge Patterson entered, gavel striking wood. Court is now in session. The prosecutor began methodically, presenting the timeline. The hospital attack, the recovered Tiffany bracelet, the security footage authenticated by 3 independent analysts. The courtroom screens flickered to life, replaying the chilling moment Sabrina lunged at Claire. Gasps filled the room. Sabrina's lawyer objected. Your Honor, the footage doesn't show intent, only a tragic accident blown out of proportion by media manipulation. The judge raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps we should hear the defendant's voice. The prosecutor pressed play again, this time the leaked audio clip from Sabrina's own phone. Her voice filled the courtroom. Of course I pushed her. She deserved it. She took everything from me. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Sabrina's attorney dropped his pen. Sabrina leapt to her feet. That was taken out of context. I was angry. I didn't mean it literally. William leaned toward Noah, whispering, and there's the nail in her coffin. The prosecutor turned to Claire. Mrs. Collins, would you like to make a statement? Claire rose slowly, supported by Noah's steady hand. Her voice was soft, but every word landed like a heartbeat. I didn't come here for vengeance. I came because no woman should be afraid for her child inside a hospital. Because no amount of money or lies should protect cruelty. I just want my peace back. Her words rippled through the courtroom, disarming even the harshest spectators. Sabrina sat back down, eyes burning. For a moment she looked like she might cry, but instead, she whispered under her breath, "You'll regret this." Evan heard it. He turned to her, eyes wide. "Stop," he hissed. "You've done enough." She shot him a glare. "You were in on it too. Don't play the saint now." The judge slammed his gavel. Order. When the session ended, the judge announced that formal charges would proceed and a restraining order against Sabrina would remain in place. The next hearing would determine damages and sentencing. As the Bennetts stepped outside, flashes blinded them. Reporters shouted questions. "Claire, do you forgive her?" "William, is this the end of the Bennett-Collins empire?" Claire paused, her expression calm. "No empire built on lies ever lasts." Then she turned and walked toward the car, the crowd parting like a tide. Inside, William looked at her and whispered, "Your mother would have been proud." Claire smiled faintly, hand resting on her belly. "Let's make sure this legacy means something, Dad." And as the car pulled away from the courthouse, the city's noise faded. But the reckoning had only just begun. Rain swept across the East River like streaks of smoke, the gray skyline reflecting a mood that hung over the entire city. Inside a dim cocktail bar overlooking the water, Evan Collins sat hunched over a glass of bourbon, the amber light flickering across his face. He hadn't slept in 2 nights. The trial, the headlines, the collapse of his company, all of it had stripped him down to a hollow shell. He looked up when he heard the voice. "Rough week?" It was Sabrina Cole. Her eyes were tired, her makeup smeared, but her smirk was still there. A ghost of the arrogance she once wielded like a weapon. Evan's grip tightened around his glass. "You shouldn't be here. The press is tearing you apart." Sabrina slid into the seat across from him, crossing her legs with defiance. "Please. You think I care what they say? They'll forget in a month. Scandal has a short shelf life." He laughed bitterly. "Not this time. You made sure of that." She leaned forward. "Don't pretend you're innocent. You told me to handle it quietly. You wired the money. You wanted her out of the way as much as I did." Evan's eyes flashed with panic. "That's not what I meant. I just wanted to protect my image, not—" "Not what?" she snapped. "Not attack your pregnant wife? Not nearly cost her the baby? You're no saint, Evan. You're just cleaner at hiding the blood on your hands." He slammed the glass on the table, voice shaking. "I loved her." Sabrina's laugh was cold. "You loved the reflection she gave you, the power, the Bennett name. When that cracked, you came running to me because I made you feel important again." She took a slow sip of her drink, eyes locked on him. "But now, you're a liability." Evan frowned. "What are you talking about?" Sabrina reached into her purse and pulled out a small flash drive. "Insurance," she said. "Every message, every call, every dollar you sent me, it's all here. If I go down, so do you." He froze. "You wouldn't dare." Her smile sharpened. "Try me." Evan lunged forward, trying to grab the flash drive, but Sabrina was faster. She slipped it into her coat pocket, standing up. "You forget, darling. I learned manipulation from the best." She turned and walked out into the rain, leaving him shaking in fury and fear. Across town in Bennett Capitol Tower, William Bennett was watching the storm from his office. Noah Reed entered quietly, setting a stack of printed files on the desk. "New discovery," Noah said. "Our forensic team decrypted part of the hard drive from Sabrina's apartment." William raised an eyebrow. And, Noah took a breath. "It's worse than we thought. Evan and Sabrina didn't just plan to smear Claire, they were diverting Bennett Capital funds, hundreds of thousands, to create fake consulting contracts. It's corporate fraud." William leaned back slowly, his jaw tightening. "So they tried to destroy my daughter while stealing from me?" Noah nodded. "If this goes to federal court, it'll end both of them permanently." William looked out at the rain. "Good. Let justice finish what they started." Later that night, Claire was reading in her hospital bed when her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "He's meeting her again. Park Lounge. Be careful who you trust." Her stomach knotted. She immediately called Noah. "Someone just sent me a message. They know about Evan and Sabrina." Noah frowned. "Stay in your room. I'll handle it." But by the time he arrived at the lounge, Sabrina was gone, and Evan was standing alone outside in the rain, soaked, trembling, and pale. When Noah approached, Evan whispered, "She has everything. She's going to burn me, and you don't understand. She's not finished with Claire." And at that moment, Noah realized the storm wasn't over. It was about to hit harder than ever. The next afternoon, the storm clouds finally broke, leaving the Manhattan skyline washed clean beneath a pale winter sun. But inside the River Cafe, Brooklyn's most elegant restaurant overlooking the East River, the air was thick with tension. William Bennett sat at a corner table with two major investors, both longtime allies now nervous about the public fallout. He wore a charcoal gray suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. Power didn't need decoration. His Mont Blanc pen rested beside a folder marked Crisis Strategy. "William," said one of the investors, a man named David Harrington, swirling his glass of Pinot Noir, "the scandal is spreading fast. Sabrina's lawyer is hinting that she'll drag Bennett Capital into it. She's claiming the company funded her through shell accounts." William didn't flinch. "Let her claim what she wants. We have the audits, and soon the FBI will have the evidence. The truth is patient, gentlemen. It always outlasts chaos." The second investor leaned forward. "You're confident your daughter can handle this in the public eye?" William paused, eyes drifting toward the view, the Statue of Liberty shining faintly through the haze. "Claire doesn't need to handle the public. She just needs to heal. The rest is my fight." As if on cue, Noah Reed entered, coat still damp from the rain. He placed a black binder on the table and opened it to the first page. "We traced the last missing payment from Sabrina's offshore account. It was sent to a digital wallet tied to Collins Media Group. That's our smoking gun." David exhaled. "So Evan's finished?" Noah nodded. "Once we hand this over to the district attorney, there's no way out for him, or her." William closed the binder carefully. "Then we move forward. No press conference, no theatrics, just justice." Meanwhile, across town, Claire was resting in her hospital suite when her phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, she answered. "Mrs. Bennett," said a woman's voice, calm but urgent. "This is Detective Alvarez, NYPD. We just received a tip that Sabrina Cole is leaving the city. She's purchased a one-way ticket to Miami." Claire sat upright. "She's running?" "Looks like it," the detective replied. "We're coordinating with airport security, but if she gets past TSA, she could vanish before the next hearing." Claire's pulse quickened. "You have to stop her. She won't stop until she's destroyed everything." The detective's tone softened. "We'll handle it, ma'am. Stay safe." As soon as the call ended, Claire looked toward the framed photo of her and her late mother on the bedside table. "Mom," she whispered, "if you're watching, keep us safe." Back at the River Cafe, William's phone buzzed. He glanced at the message and frowned. "Sabrina's on the move. NYPD's tracking her." Noah's brow furrowed. Running means fear, but it also means desperation. She might still try to use that flash drive. William's voice hardened. "Then we take away her escape route." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "This is Bennett. I need a freeze order on all accounts tied to Sabrina Cole and Collins Media Group. Immediate effect." The investors exchanged glances. "That'll get messy, William." "Messy," William replied, "is better than silent." By the time they left the cafe, the sun had dipped behind the skyline, the city's lights flickering awake. William stood for a moment on the cobblestone path outside, looking across the water at Manhattan. His empire, his battleground. Noah joined him. "If Sabrina runs, we'll catch her. But if she fights," William finished the thought for him, "then we make sure she loses everything." As they climbed into the Mercedes, Noah's phone chimed, an encrypted message from an unknown number. He opened it, eyes narrowing. It read, "You think you've won, but there are things even your father doesn't know about her. Meet me before midnight, alone." Noah looked out at the city lights and realized someone else was pulling strings in the dark, and the real enemy might not be Sabrina after all. By dawn the next morning, Manhattan's skyline burned gold against a cloudless sky, but beneath the calm, the city buzzed with rumors. Sabrina Cole's failed escape attempt had made every news feed. Police had intercepted her at LaGuardia before boarding her flight to Miami. Cameras caught her in handcuffs, hair disheveled, face blank. Within hours, hashtags like Justice for Claire and Bennett Revenge were trending nationwide. Inside Bennett Capitol Tower, William Bennett stood before a wall of television screens showing the coverage. "They finally see her for who she is," he said quietly. Noah Reed entered, phone in hand. "And they're starting to see you for who you are too," he said. "The public loves a comeback story, especially when the villain's finally unmasked." William gave a faint, tired smile. "I'm not interested in love, Noah, only truth." Meanwhile, Claire sat by her hospital window, sipping decaf coffee, the baby kicking softly beneath her ribs. For the first time in months, her breathing felt steady. But peace was fragile. She opened her iPhone and scrolled through her notifications. Thousands of supportive messages poured in from strangers, women sharing their own stories of betrayal, courage, and survival. One comment caught her attention. Claire Bennett didn't just stand up for herself, she stood up for all of us. She smiled faintly. Maybe, she thought, something good could grow from the ruins. Her nurse entered with a newspaper. "You're on the front page again," she said gently. "You look beautiful, dear, strong." Claire glanced at the photo. Her standing outside the courthouse, hand on her belly, eyes calm amid flashing lights. The headline read, "Claire Bennett, from victim to voice." But as she turned the page, her smile faded. There, in a smaller column, was another headline. Anonymous sources claim Bennett empire hid financial secrets. Her pulse quickened. "What is this?" The nurse shrugged. "Probably just clickbait, honey." But Claire knew better. She called Noah immediately. "Someone's leaking information," she said. He sighed. "I saw it too. It's nonsense. Just tabloid speculation. We'll trace the source." Hours later in his office, Noah did exactly that. His cybersecurity team tracked the anonymous article back to an encrypted account linked not to Sabrina, but to Evan Collins. Noah's blood ran cold. He stormed into William's office, slamming a folder on the desk. He's still playing games. Evan's feeding false stories to the press, trying to smear the family so he looks like the victim. William didn't look surprised. "I expected as much. Cowards don't surrender, they slither." "What do we do?" Noah asked. William glanced at the framed photo of his late wife on the credenza. "We do what she would have done. We stay honest, and we stay loud." That afternoon, William held a press briefing at the Ritz-Carlton. Dozens of reporters packed the ballroom, lights glaring off the marble floor. William stood before the podium, composed, hands resting lightly on his notes. "I will not respond to gossip," he began. "But I will say this. Truth is not a headline, it's a legacy. My daughter's integrity stands untouched. Bennett Capital remains transparent and strong." His voice filled the room, low and steady. "As for those who weaponize lies, remember this. The public may forgive mistakes, but it never forgets cruelty." Applause rippled through the room. Across town, Evan watched the live broadcast from a bar television, his face pale. A man beside him muttered, "Guess the Bennett guy just buried you alive, huh?" Evan didn't respond. He just stared into his drink, realizing that every lie he'd told had become a rope tightening around his own neck. Back at the hospital, Claire turned off the TV, whispering to herself, "It's almost over." But Noah's voice echoed in her mind from earlier that day, when he'd mentioned the encrypted leak. And deep down, Claire sensed something terrible. If Evan still had access to the data Sabrina once stole, the story wasn't ending. It was evolving into something far more dangerous. The city had barely caught its breath from the last scandal when another tremor rippled through Manhattan. It started with a rumor, an unverified report claiming Evan Collins was preparing to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for leniency. Within hours, the rumor turned into headlines: Evan Collins to testify against Sabrina Cole and Bennett Capital. Inside Bennett Capital Tower, William Bennett stood by the window, eyes fixed on the skyline. The afternoon light fractured across the glass like 1,000 shards of truth waiting to cut someone open. Noah Reed entered, carrying a manila folder. "It's confirmed," Noah said quietly. Evan's lawyers reached out to the district attorney's office this morning. He's offering partial cooperation. He'll admit to some involvement, but he's trying to shift the bigger blame onto Sabrina, and, if possible, you. William didn't flinch. Of course he is. The weak always try to hide behind the powerful. Noah frowned. He's also hinting that Bennett Capital executives might have used corporate funds to control media narratives. If the press runs with that, it could look like you bought the public's sympathy. William turned, his expression stone. Then we make sure the truth is louder than his lies. Meanwhile, in her hospital room, Claire Bennett sat on her bed, reading the news on her iPad. Her stomach tightened with dread. She thought it was over. The lawsuits, the scandal, the constant humiliation. But now, her husband was turning the entire narrative upside down. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Noah. "Don't read anything online. Evan's about to make a statement. We're handling it." She put the device down and took a shaky breath. "Why can't he just stop?" she whispered. Later that evening, Evan Collins walked into a press conference flanked by 2 lawyers. The flash of cameras painted his face white and hollow. He looked nothing like the confident entrepreneur from glossy magazines. This was a man stripped of everything but guilt and fear. "I made mistakes," he began, voice trembling. "But I was manipulated. I didn't know how far things had gone until it was too late." A reporter shouted, "Do you deny ordering the smear campaign against your wife?" Evan hesitated, eyes flicking toward the microphones. "I tried to protect my company. Sabrina acted on her own. I regret everything." Another reporter called out, "What about the Bennett family? Did William Bennett use influence to silence the press?" Evan swallowed hard. "I can't speak for him. I can only speak for myself." That one line was enough. Within minutes, social media exploded. Conspiracy theories flooded every corner of the internet. Bennett cover-up began trending. The tabloids feasted. Inside the tower, Noah slammed his fist against the desk. He didn't even deny it outright. He just threw you under the bus without saying your name. William's voice was calm but sharp. Then we hit back. Not with emotion, but with precision. "Prepare the files." "What files?" "The ones that show where the money really went. The offshore accounts under Evan's name. I warned him years ago, lies always leave receipts." As the legal team assembled, Claire called her father. Her voice cracked through the phone. "Dad, stop fighting. Let him destroy himself. You don't need to keep protecting me." William's tone softened. "Claire, this isn't about protection anymore. It's about legacy. If I let men like him rewrite the truth, your child will grow up in a world where deceit wins. I can't allow that." Silence lingered, broken only by Claire's quiet sob. "Then promise me one thing," she whispered. "When this ends, walk away. Don't lose yourself in their darkness." William closed his eyes. "I'll try." At that same moment, Evan sat alone in his apartment, watching his own press conference replay on TV. The screen flickered, and for a second, he thought he saw his reflection smile back, mocking him. His phone vibrated with a new message from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have talked. Now everyone pays." And as the city lights blinked outside his window, Evan realized he wasn't the one pulling strings anymore. He was the next name on someone's list. The morning of the trial dawned cold and bright. Outside the New York County Supreme Court, the streets were a sea of cameras, reporters, and curious onlookers. Barricades lined the steps, and police officers guided people through like a parade of chaos. Headlines screamed across newsstands: "The Billionaire, the Mistress, and the Betrayed Wife. Trial of the Year begins." Inside a black SUV, Claire Bennett sat between her father William and Noah Reed. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face remained composed. She wore a cream-colored maternity suit, simple, powerful, impossible to ignore. "Are you ready for this?" Noah asked quietly. Claire nodded, eyes focused ahead. "I don't think anyone's ever ready to face their worst nightmare. But I'm not running anymore." William glanced at her with pride. "That's my girl." When they entered the courthouse, every flashbulb turned toward them. The crowd hushed. It was the first time Claire had been seen in public since the hospital attack. She didn't look broken anymore. She looked resolute. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Sabrina Cole sat at the defense table, her once glamorous presence replaced by a tight black blazer and a nervous tapping of her manicured nails. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically. On the opposite side, Evan Collins sat with his own counsel, staring blankly at the polished wood floor. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Court is now in session. The People versus Sabrina Cole, with Evan Collins named as cooperating witness. The prosecutor, a woman with steel-gray hair and steady eyes, rose first. "Your Honor, today we will show clear evidence that the defendant, Sabrina Cole, intentionally assaulted Mrs. Claire Bennett, a pregnant woman with malicious intent, and that Mr. Collins aided in the concealment of that crime." Sabrina's lawyer immediately stood. "Objection, Your Honor. My client acted out of emotional distress. She was provoked." The judge's gavel cracked through the room. "Objection overruled. Proceed." The first piece of evidence displayed on the screen was the hospital footage. The courtroom gasped as the grainy clip showed Sabrina pushing Claire. Her voice echoed through the speakers, faint but clear. "He doesn't want you anymore." Claire looked down, her fingers tightening around the edge of the table. William reached over, resting a steady hand on hers. Next came the audio confession, Sabrina's own voice saying, "Of course I pushed her. She deserved it." Sabrina jumped to her feet. "That was manipulated. You can't prove it's real." The prosecutor calmly presented the authentication documents. "We already did." The gallery erupted in murmurs. The judge banged his gavel again. "Order." Then came Evan's turn to testify. He walked slowly to the witness stand, pale and nervous. He avoided Claire's eyes entirely. "Mr. Collins," the prosecutor began, "did you at any point instruct Miss Cole to target or harm your wife?" Evan hesitated. "No, I never told her to hurt Claire. I just wanted the situation to go away." "Did you send Miss Cole money labeled as damage control?" He swallowed hard. "Yes, but it wasn't for that. I didn't know what she planned." The prosecutor raised an eyebrow. "So you expected the problem to disappear, but you didn't care how?" Evan's silence was the only answer. In the back row, reporters scribbled furiously. When cross-examination began, Sabrina's attorney tried to paint her as a victim of manipulation, but the jury's faces said otherwise. The evidence was too strong, the lies too obvious. During recess, William leaned toward Noah. "This trial isn't just about justice, it's about redemption. Claire's gonna walk out of here free." Noah nodded, though his eyes lingered on Evan, who sat slumped at the defense table, like a man waiting for a verdict that went beyond prison. Back inside, as the day ended, the judge announced, "Court will reconvene tomorrow for closing statements." The gavel fell. Outside, the press swarmed again. Claire paused at the courthouse steps, her hand resting protectively over her belly. Cameras flashed like lightning. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said softly. But as the crowd cheered her name, a black sedan idled across the street, its tinted window lowering just enough for a camera lens to glint. Someone was still watching. The next morning, Manhattan woke to breaking news. Across every major network, a single headline dominated. "William Bennett speaks out. The billionaire father breaks his silence." At 9 a.m., inside the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, reporters from around the world gathered for an unannounced press conference. Cameras lined the walls, microphones bristled across the podium, and tension hung thick in the air. When William Bennett walked in, the crowd fell silent. Dressed in a dark, tailored suit, his silver hair slicked neatly back, he radiated authority. But there was something softer in his eyes, an exhaustion that came only from fighting for something worth losing everything for. He stepped up to the podium, his Mont Blanc pen glinting in his hand as he unfolded a statement. "Good morning," he began, voice calm but commanding. "For weeks, this story has consumed the city, a story of betrayal, violence, and greed. But beneath the headlines, there's something deeper, a reminder that integrity is not for sale." The room was silent, the clicking of camera shutters echoing faintly. My daughter, Claire Bennett, was attacked while carrying my grandchild. He continued. She was humiliated, threatened, and nearly silenced by those who believed money and manipulation could erase conscience. But she stood her ground, and so did we. He paused, letting the gravity settle. Today I'm announcing the creation of the Bennett Foundation for Maternal Safety, a national initiative funding hospital security systems, patient protection laws, and mental health programs for expecting mothers. Every dollar of damages recovered from this trial will go toward that cause. Reporters scribbled furiously. One called out, "Mr. Bennett, is this a public relations move to salvage your family's name?" William looked up sharply. "No, this is a promise. My family's name was built on legacy, not perfection. I'm not here to polish an image. I'm here to make sure no woman ever feels what my daughter did." Applause broke out across the room. Even hardened journalists nodded. Meanwhile, across town, Evan Collins watched the broadcast from his apartment, the sound low but clear. He poured himself coffee with shaking hands. Every word from William felt like a nail sealing his coffin. Then came the part that shattered whatever dignity he had left. "As for those responsible," William said, voice turning steely, "justice will take its course. Sabrina Cole has already confessed to her actions, and her accomplice, Mr. Collins, will answer for his role in covering them up. I will not destroy them. The truth already has." The line was perfect, cold, elegant, final. In the courtroom later that afternoon, whispers filled the halls. The judge had allowed the press conference footage to be submitted as part of the official record, proving William's statements were factual and not defamatory. It painted a clear picture of moral authority, a father reclaiming his daughter's honor with dignity, not vengeance. Claire arrived shortly after, escorted by Noah. When she entered, Sabrina avoided her gaze completely. The woman who once strutted in designer heels now sat in silence, her confidence shattered. The prosecutor leaned over to Claire. "He just changed the entire narrative. You're no longer the victim of gossip. You're the symbol of grace under fire." Claire smiled faintly. "My father never needed a courtroom to win. He wins by doing what's right." By the end of the session, the defense had nothing left. Sabrina's testimony faltered under cross-examination. Every excuse contradicted the mountain of evidence. Evan's half-hearted cooperation had turned him into a ghost. Neither hero nor villain, just forgotten debris in the wreckage of his own ambition. When the judge adjourned for the day, William met Noah in the corridor. "Did you see the public response?" Noah asked, holding out his phone. "The foundation's website crashed from traffic. Donations are flooding in." William gave a tired smile. Then maybe, for once, pain built something worth keeping. As they left, Claire joined them, holding her father's arm. Outside, the evening light poured through the courthouse steps like redemption itself. Reporters shouted questions, flashes bursting like fireworks. William stopped, looked at the cameras, and simply said, "This isn't revenge, it's restoration." But behind the blinding lights, a shadow lingered, a woman in a gray coat watching them leave, a faint smile curling her lips. The story wasn't over. Not yet. The final day of the trial began with a strange stillness in the air. Manhattan's usual roar seemed muted, as if even the city itself was holding its breath. The courtroom was packed, journalists, spectators, and silent faces waiting for justice to speak. Claire Bennett sat at the plaintiff's table beside her father and Noah Reed. Her posture was calm but resolute. 7 months of fear and humiliation had stripped her of naivety, but in its place grew something unbreakable. Across from her sat Sabrina Cole, her eyes hollow, her once polished image now a shell of disgrace. Evan Collins sat one row behind, trembling, his lawyer whispering frantic reassurances he didn't believe. Judge Patterson entered, robes sweeping like a dark wave. "This court has heard enough," he said firmly. "The evidence is clear, and the testimony speaks for itself." The courtroom went silent. "Miss Sabrina Cole, you are found guilty of third-degree assault and intentional infliction of emotional distress. You are hereby sentenced to 1 year in county jail, with probation and mandatory therapy." Gasps rippled through the room. Sabrina's lips parted in shock. "1 year? That's impossible," she cried, standing up. The judge's gavel struck hard. "Sit down, Miss Cole." Sabrina sank back, eyes wild, as her attorney rubbed his temples. Then the judge turned his gaze toward Evan. As for Mr. Evan Collins, this court acknowledges your cooperation with authorities. However, your involvement in concealing evidence and funding misinformation is a serious offense. You will pay $2.5 million in restitution and serve 6 months of community service under strict supervision. Consider this mercy, not absolution. Evan's shoulders collapsed. The courtroom murmured. Claire's fingers tightened around her father's hand, but she didn't smile. Justice wasn't joy, it was closure. The judge looked toward her. Mrs. Bennett, you've endured what no woman should. The court commends your strength and integrity. Claire nodded, voice steady. Thank you, Your Honor. With one final strike of the gavel, it was over. Outside, the courthouse erupted into chaos. Reporters flooded the steps, microphones thrust forward like bayonets. Cameras flashed as Sabrina was led out in handcuffs, screaming about lies and conspiracies. Evan followed quietly, eyes down, the press shouting his name like a curse. William guided Claire past the crowd, his arm steady around her shoulders. It's done, he said softly. You can breathe again. But Claire shook her head. No, Dad. It's not over. Justice doesn't erase pain, it just gives it form. Noah joined them by the car, handing William a tablet. The foundation's donations tripled overnight. The public response is massive. You've turned this trial into a movement. William exhaled slowly. Then let it matter. Let it save someone else. As the car pulled away, the city flashed by in streaks of gold and gray. Claire watched through the tinted glass, lost in thought. Her baby kicked softly, as if reminding her that life still moved forward. Meanwhile, at Rikers Island's intake facility, Sabrina sat in a holding cell, staring at the blank wall. Her phone had been confiscated, but her mind buzzed with hatred. She thinks she won, she muttered under her breath. They all think this is over. A guard approached with paperwork. Sign this. Sabrina took the pen, her hand shaking, and glanced down at the form. At the bottom, a small note had been scribbled in unfamiliar handwriting. You were right. There's still one secret left. Her eyes widened. Who wrote this? She demanded. The guard shrugged. Came with your file. Back at Bennett Capital, Noah's phone buzzed. He frowned as he opened the anonymous message. A photograph of Sabrina in the courthouse parking lot, taken from an angle no one else could have had. Attached was a single line. The truth wasn't all in court. He showed it to William, whose face darkened. Someone's still out there, Noah said quietly. William nodded, staring out at the skyline. Then we find them before they find us. And as the sun set behind the Manhattan skyline, the Bennett family thought the war had ended, unaware that the final strike hadn't even been launched yet. 1 month after the verdict, New York had moved on, or at least that's what it looked like on the surface. The tabloids had shifted to fresher scandals, and the Bennett story had faded into the city's background noise. But inside the Bennett penthouse overlooking Central Park, the echoes of that war still lingered in quiet moments, the kind found in the spaces between heartbeats. Claire Bennett stood by the window, the city spread below her like a map of resilience. She cradled her newborn son, tiny, sleeping, perfect. His name was Noah William Bennett. Every breath he took was proof that she had survived everything meant to destroy her. The morning light filtered through the curtains, brushing gold across her face. Her father entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looks like you, William said softly. Claire smiled faintly. He has your eyes, the serious kind. William chuckled, setting a cup beside her. Let's hope he uses them for better purposes than I did. For a moment, silence wrapped them both. It wasn't heavy. It was healing. The kind of silence that comes after a storm finally surrenders. Downstairs, in the Bennett Capital offices, Noah Reed reviewed the last of the Foundation's launch paperwork. The Bennett Foundation for Maternal Safety had officially opened that morning. Donations were pouring in from around the country. Hospitals were already reaching out for support. What began as tragedy was becoming legacy. He leaned back in his chair, glancing at the framed photo of Claire from the gala. The night everything began to change. She had walked through fire and somehow come out radiant. Just then, his assistant entered. Mr. Reed, you might want to see this, she said, handing him a folder. Inside was an envelope with no return address. Inside that, a single photo, Sabrina Cole in an orange prison jumpsuit staring straight into the camera. On the back, written in neat black ink, she's not the only one who paid. Noah frowned. Who sent this? The assistant shook her head. No signature. It was hand-delivered. He picked up his phone and called William immediately. "We might have a problem," he said. William's voice was calm but cautious. "Describe it." When Noah finished, William sighed. "It's a warning. Someone wants us to remember the story isn't buried. Keep it contained. I'll handle the rest." Hours later, William arrived at the penthouse. Claire was feeding the baby, humming softly. He didn't mention the letter. He couldn't bring darkness into the one place that finally felt safe again. Instead, he sat beside her. "You know," he said quietly, "your mother used to say that the world doesn't care how strong you are. It only notices when you stand up again." Claire smiled. Then maybe that's what this was all for. She looked down at her son. He's going to grow up knowing the truth. Not the headlines, the real story. William nodded. That's the only story worth telling. Later that evening, Claire walked onto the rooftop terrace. The skyline shimmered under the night sky, the Empire State Building glowing white against the stars. She closed her eyes and let the wind brush her hair, whispering through the quiet hum of the city that had both broken and remade her. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. She opened it cautiously. It was a video file. The screen showed the courtroom footage of Sabrina's confession. But then, at the end, the camera panned, and there, standing in the hallway, was a man Claire didn't recognize. He smiled faintly into the lens, then disappeared from view. Claire's blood ran cold. She typed back, "Who are you?" The reply came instantly, "The one who made sure you survived." She looked out at the city again, the weight of mystery settling around her. But this time she didn't feel fear. She felt strength. The baby stirred in her arms, and she whispered, "You're safe now, my love. They can't touch us anymore." Behind her, William stood quietly in the doorway, watching his daughter, the woman who had turned pain into purpose. And as dawn crept across the Manhattan skyline, the Bennett family finally found peace. Not because the world had forgiven them, but because they had forgiven themselves. So, that's how the story ends. And if you're still here, listening right now, it means something in this journey has touched you. Maybe not just Claire's pain, but her strength, her quiet courage to start again. Life has a way of breaking us in unexpected places, doesn't it? But like the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, the obstacle is the way. Every wound we carry can become a doorway, not to bitterness, but to wisdom. Claire's story reminds us that justice isn't just about winning in court. It's about reclaiming your peace, your dignity, and your power. Sometimes healing means standing tall, even when the world is watching you fall. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing not to be defined by betrayal. If her story gave you hope, if it reminded you that even in the darkest chapters, light is waiting to return, then don't let it end here. Hit the like button, share this story with someone who needs strength tonight, and subscribe to our channel. Because here, we don't just tell dramas. We tell the truth about survival, resilience, and the power to begin again.